She didn't just light up the screen, she defined an era. Clara Bow was Hollywood's first true it girl, a wild, red-haired rebel who embodied the spirit of the 1920s. She was raw, magnetic, and unlike anything the silver screen had seen before. At her peak, she received over 45,000 fan letters a month. Studios couldn't get enough of her. Neither could America. But behind the glitz was a girl battling deep scars, from a childhood filled with abuse, poverty, and heartbreak. Clara's father assaulted her. Her mother tried to kill her. And yet, she rose, and ruled. Then came the talkies, sound films. Clara's thick Brooklyn accent was mocked. Gossip columns turned cruel. Hollywood decided she wasn't refined enough for the new age. By age 28, she was done with fame, vanishing from the spotlight and retreating to a ranch in Nevada. Her voice, once so iconic in silence, was barely ever heard again. She died alone, at 60, in obscurity. But for a brief, blazing moment. Clara Bow was Hollywood. Pola Negri, the original diva of silent cinema. Born in Poland and trained as a ballerina, Pola took Europe by storm with her exotic looks and hypnotic screen presence. When she arrived in Hollywood in the 1920s, she was treated like royalty. She wore diamonds to breakfast and drove custom-made cars. Audiences were obsessed. So were the tabloids. Her passionate love affairs were headline gold, especially her tragic romance with Rudolph Valentino. When he died, Pola fainted dramatically at his funeral, some say for the cameras. But the glamour didn't last forever. With the arrival of sound, her thick accent became a barrier. Roles dried up. Her style felt outdated. And just like that, Hollywood moved on. She lived for decades in quiet retirement, far from the spotlight she once owned. Forgotten by many, but never erased. Jean Seberg. She was supposed to be Hollywood's next big thing, blonde, beautiful, and barely 18 when she was cast as Joan of Arc in St. Joan. But behind Jean Seberg's angelic face was a woman who would be destroyed not by scandal, but by the United States government. After her breakthrough in French New Wave cinema with Breathless, 1960, Jean became an international icon. But in the late 60s, she did something few actresses dared, she spoke out. She donated to civil rights groups, including the Black Panthers. That's when the FBI came after her. Newspaper headlines, FBI files, J. Edgar Hoover photos. Under J. Edgar Hoover's COINTELPRO program, the FBI launched a secret smear campaign. They planted false stories in the press, even accusing her of carrying a child fathered by a Black Panther member. The emotional toll was devastating. Jean spiraled into depression. In 1979, at just 40 years old, she was found dead in her car. The cause, suicide. She kissed Elvis Presley, and then left Hollywood for God. Dolores Hart was one of the brightest rising stars of the late 1950s. She had it all, beauty, talent, fame, and a successful string of films, including Loving You, 1957, opposite Elvis himself. At just 24, she had starred in 10 major motion pictures. Red carpet photos, film posters, fan magazine covers. Hollywood was ready to make her the next big thing. But Dolores felt something deeper calling her, something no fame could satisfy. In 1963, at the very peak of her career, she stunned the world by walking away from the spotlight, and entering a Benedictine monastery. Convent gates closing, nuns in prayer, Dolores in habit. Reporters didn't understand it. Why give up fame for faith? But for Dolores, it wasn't giving up, it was coming home. Today, she lives peacefully behind the cloistered walls of a convent in Connecticut. She never married, never returned to acting, but she says she never once looked back. Peg Entwistle was a rising Broadway actress in the early 1930s, elegant, talented, and full of promise. When RKO Pictures brought her to Los Angeles, it seemed like her big break had finally come. She starred in just one film, 13 Women, 1932. But the film's release was delayed. Her scenes were cut. And the phone stopped ringing. Old Hollywood streets, casting office signs, empty theaters. One September evening in 1932, Peg climbed the hill behind her home, reached the giant Hollywoodland sign, and jumped from the letter H. She was just 24 years old. News clippings, search parties, the Hollywood sign in fog. A day later, a letter arrived at her door. It was a job offer, for a new role where she would play a woman driven to suicide. Her story became a dark symbol of Hollywood's broken promises, a warning whispered for generations. Veronica Lake became a wartime icon and one of the most recognizable faces of the 1940s. Her films with Alan Ladd, like This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia, made her a sensation. Women copied her hairstyle, men adored her, and studios saw dollar signs. But behind the smoldering gaze was a woman in turmoil. Studio backlots, military posters featuring Lake, fan magazine clippings. Lake struggled with alcoholism, a failed marriage, and rumors of being difficult on set. Her box office draw faded, and by the early 1950s, she had all but disappeared. Grainy images of Veronica in her later years, faded neon signs. In her 40s, she was working as a cocktail waitress in New York, unrecognizable to most customers. Veronica Lake died of hepatitis in 1973, alone and nearly broke. In 1973, Marlon Brando shocked Hollywood and the world by refusing to accept his Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in The Godfather. Instead of attending the ceremony, Brando sent Sacheen Littlefeather, a Native American activist and actress, to the Oscars stage. Dressed in traditional Apache attire, Littlefeather delivered a heartfelt and unexpected speech explaining Brando's decision. Brando's refusal was a protest against the film industry's portrayal of Native Americans and to draw attention to the ongoing mistreatment of indigenous peoples in the United States. Specifically, he wanted to highlight the recent government raid on the occupation of Wounded Knee, a Native American protest site, and the general injustices faced by Native communities. The moment stunned the audience. While some applauded the bold stand, others were confused or even hostile. Littlefeather faced boos and jeers from parts of the crowd, and the incident sparked widespread controversy and debate about politics and activism in Hollywood. This act remains one of the most memorable Oscar moments in history. It not only underscored Brando's commitment to social justice but also forced Hollywood and its audiences to confront uncomfortable political realities, forever changing the way celebrities use their platform. Humphrey Bogart, one of classic Hollywood's most iconic actors, was known for his tough guy roles and unmistakable gravelly voice. What many fans don't realize is that his signature rasp was largely the result of an intense smoking habit. Bogart reportedly smoked up to 8 packs of cigarettes a day during his career, an astonishing amount by any standard. His constant smoking contributed to his deep, smoky voice, which perfectly suited the hard-boiled characters he often portrayed on screen. But it also took a serious toll on his health. Bogart was well aware of the dangers. In a darkly humorous remark, he once said he was already dead because of his addiction. The actor's smoking habit eventually led to severe health problems. Bogart died at the relatively young age of 57 from esophageal cancer, a disease linked to his decades of heavy smoking and drinking. Despite the risks, he continued to chain-smoke on and off set, embodying the gritty, world-weary persona audiences loved. Bogart's story stands as a stark reminder of the era's glamorization of smoking, a habit that shaped not only his voice and image but ultimately his life's tragic end. Errol Flynn wasn't just a swashbuckling hero on screen, off-screen, he had a wild reputation as a notorious brawler. Known for his charm and devil-may-care attitude, Flynn often found himself in fights that made headlines. One of the most infamous incidents occurred during a trip to Australia in the late 1930s. Flynn reportedly got into a heated argument with a taxi driver, which quickly escalated into a full-blown brawl. According to witnesses, Flynn's temper flared after a disagreement over the fare or the route. What followed was a chaotic street fight, with Flynn throwing punches like the seasoned tough guy he often portrayed in movies. The incident was widely reported by Australian newspapers, adding to his already wild and rebellious public image. This wasn't an isolated event. Flynn's reputation as a troublemaker followed him throughout his career. He was known for late-night parties, heavy drinking, and frequent run-ins with the law. His fearless attitude and physicality off-camera made him as legendary as the pirate captain roles he famously played. Despite his brawling ways, Flynn remained a beloved figure in Hollywood, a real-life swashbuckler who lived as wildly as his characters. Tallulah Bankhead was known for her flamboyant personality, sharp wit, and wildly unpredictable behavior, but one of her most infamous party stories takes the cake. The legendary actress once threw a lavish Hollywood party where live alligators roamed freely among the guests. Bankhead's social gatherings were anything but ordinary. This particular party was held in her mansion, filled with Hollywood's elite, and featured the unexpected addition of several live alligators casually slithering around the floor. Rather than panic, many guests reportedly embraced the bizarre spectacle, mingling and sipping cocktails while trying to keep a wary eye on the reptiles. The alligators were not just for shock value. Bankhead had a known fascination with exotic animals and owned a menagerie of unusual pets. Her eccentricity made her parties the talk of Hollywood, and the alligator stunt only cemented her reputation as a daring, larger-than-life personality who lived by her own rules. The Wild Alligator Party remains one of classic Hollywood's most outrageous stories, perfectly capturing the spirit of an era where the stars didn't just entertain on screen, they lived wildly off it. Clark Gable was known for his commanding presence both on and off the screen, but one story from the filming of The Misfits in 1960 truly stands out. During the production, Gable reportedly brought a live lion onto the studio lot, an act that caused quite a stir among cast and crew. The story goes that Gable, always the animal lover, had a special bond with big cats and wanted to have the lion present during some scenes for authenticity. While the lion was well trained and controlled, its presence in the usually orderly studio caused chaos. Crew members were reportedly nervous, and some even panicked at the sight of the massive feline wandering around. Gable's decision was bold, fitting for the actor known as the King of Hollywood. It reflected his fearless attitude and desire to bring raw energy to his work, even if it meant disrupting the normal routine. Though the lion never caused harm, its unexpected arrival added an unpredictable wildness to the set that people still talk about today. This episode remains a legendary anecdote, showing how Gable's larger-than-life personality extended beyond the screen and into every aspect of his career. Bette Davis was famous for her fierce talent and equally fiery temper, and one on-set incident perfectly captures her legendary intensity. During the filming of Old Acquaintance, 1943, Davis reportedly punched her co-star Miriam Hopkins in the face after a heated argument. The two actresses played lifelong friends with a complicated relationship, but their off-screen dynamic was far from friendly. Davis and Hopkins were known to have a long-standing personal rivalry fueled by jealousy and competition. Tensions ran high during the shoot, culminating in a real-life confrontation. Accounts say that during one particularly tense scene, Hopkins made a snide remark, which pushed Davis over the edge. Without warning, Davis swung a punch that caught Hopkins squarely in the face. The slap was so powerful that Hopkins reportedly cried out in shock and pain. Though both women later downplayed the incident in interviews, Hollywood insiders confirmed the altercation was no staged act. It became one of the most talked-about clashes in classic film history, perfectly illustrating the passion and volatility that could run beneath the glamorous surface of old Hollywood. John Wayne became Hollywood's iconic Duke. He was a genuine cowboy and rodeo champion. Born Marion Morrison in 1907, Wayne grew up in the American West, where he developed a deep love for horses and the rugged cowboy lifestyle. As a young man, he competed in rodeos, honing his skills in bronco riding and roping, talents that would later shape his film career. Wayne's rodeo experience gave him a natural toughness and authenticity that few actors could match. When he moved to Hollywood in the 1920s, he started as a bit player and stuntman, often performing his own dangerous riding scenes. His real cowboy skills quickly caught the attention of filmmakers looking for genuine Western heroes. This background helped Wayne land leading roles in classic Westerns, where his commanding presence and expert horsemanship made him a perfect fit for tough, rugged characters. His rodeo roots also contributed to his enduring image as a symbol of American masculinity and frontier spirit. Even as Wayne became a megastar, he stayed connected to his cowboy past, owning ranches and riding horses throughout his life. His rodeo beginnings weren't just a footnote, they were the foundation of a legendary career that shaped the Western genre forever. Greta Garbo, one of classic Hollywood's most mesmerizing and enigmatic stars, stunned the world not only with her on-screen performances but also with her decision to vanish from the public eye after retiring. In 1941, at the peak of her career, Garbo walked away from Hollywood and nearly disappeared from the spotlight entirely. Unlike many stars who sought attention and continued public lives, Garbo chose a life of extreme privacy and seclusion. She rarely gave interviews or made public appearances, fueling intense speculation and fascination about her whereabouts and lifestyle. For decades, the public and media were left guessing, with rumors swirling about her eccentric habits and secretive personality. Garbo lived quietly in New York City, avoiding the typical Hollywood social scene. She became famous for her reclusive nature, so much so that it became part of her mystique. Friends and neighbors described her as gracious but intensely private. Her withdrawal from fame only increased the aura surrounding her. To this day, Greta Garbo remains a symbol of mysterious glamour, a rare star who achieved immortality not just through her films but through the intriguing silence she maintained for the rest of her life. James Cagney, Hollywood's quintessential tough guy, was as fearless off-screen as he was on. Known for his sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude, Cagney didn't tolerate disrespect, especially from fans who crossed the line. One infamous incident perfectly illustrates his real-life toughness. During a stage performance, a heckler in the audience began shouting insults at Cagney. The fans' taunts grew louder and more aggressive, disrupting the show and irritating the actor. Rather than ignore the disturbance, Cagney decided to handle the situation in his own unmistakable style. Without hesitation, he paused the performance, turned to the heckler, and delivered a swift punch, knocking the man out cold. The shocked audience erupted in cheers and applause, amazed by Cagney's quick reflexes and refusal to be disrespected. This story quickly became part of Hollywood lore, perfectly capturing Cagney's fearless, tough guy persona both on and off the stage. Unlike many actors who might have simply walked away, Cagney's reaction showed he lived the roles he played, bold, unafraid, and ready to stand his ground. It's a legendary moment that highlights why James Cagney remains one of classic Hollywood's most memorable and authentic stars.